Last Friday's news was undoubtedly the biggest news story of our lives. But make no mistake, while we thank God for answering our prayers, the other side is busy plotting their next move. What will they do? And how should we respond? We'll talk about that next. But first, as always, we start with our mission. Always remember, God created us for this time and for this place. If we learn this faith, if we live this faith, if we share this faith, what will the next 100 years look like? Join the mission. Friday's ruling was a huge victory, one that we've waited for decades. But the fight is not over. Though this ruling changes the face of American law, you cannot legislate virtue, contrition, or even common sense. So one thing that this ruling has not changed is the fact, unfortunately, that about half of this nation's population still believes that it's okay to commit these acts of brutality. A good and well-ordered society is made up of good and well-ordered men. How can we expect to build such a society with such evil and disorder? That raises an unavoidable question regarding the nature of this union, about the wisdom of us all being a United States. What I mean is, when we say that we are united, what is it that we're saying? In what way are we united? It doesn't really seem as if we are united. And about this union, about the nature of this union, is this union a permanent and moral obligation like a marriage? Moving forward, I think this is going to be a very crucial question, because I do not think any of us truly believe that this is over. None of us truly believe that they will tolerate this. If we've learned anything, we have learned that they will use whatever means necessary, the full force of the federal government, to push through their radical agenda. The only question is, why haven't they done it yet? How long is it going to take for them to spring their trap? And then after they do, if they're successful, if they somehow undo this ruling and 50 years of blood, sweat, and tears and countless prayers, will we be content with beginning another 50-year cycle of trying to undo this all over again? How long is it going to take for them to act? Look no further than their own words. With falling poll numbers, outrageous gas prices, shortages of baby formula, empty grocery store shelves, inflation, they know full well that most Americans are counting the days until the midterm elections in November. They know their days are numbered. They know that their only hope is to incite their base with social issues just like this one. In a press conference following the ruling, Biden said, and I quote, "This fall, Roe is on the ballot." And Pelosi, too, in her comments said, "Make no mistake, the rights of women and all Americans are on the ballot this November." So it kind of looks like they allowed this to happen in order to give them a social issue to motivate their base. But will it work? Will Americans fall for it? That will depend upon what Americans truly value most. At the end of the day, do they truly value this reckless hedonism, or do they place more importance on taking care of their own families? Because right now, American families are really struggling to take care of their kids. Gas prices, food shortages, inflation, you know the list. So personally, I think this issue will have little effect on the election, and I think they know it too. I think they know the revolution has failed. So in November, I fully expect more pipes to burst in Atlanta and more dangling chads. And if I'm right, and if that is their game plan, we have to take a hard look at this question of unity and seriously ask ourselves, do we want to be united? Do we want to be in a union with people who would do something so evil, so demonic? What kind of union is that? I will repeat. A good and well-ordered society is made up of good and well-ordered men. What are we pursuing in a union with people who confuse good for evil and evil for good? What do we hope to get out of a union with states like New York or California? What is it that they are bringing to the table in this relationship? It seems to me that their most significant contribution to this union is to call down God's judgment on us. So looking at this map, can we see that there is a group of people with common values, with a common pursuit? That represents a union that we should pursue. That would be good for us as a people. Those states that uphold the sanctity of life, the dignity of every human person, and still hold to the principles that originally bound us together in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, the principles of life, liberty, and property. Well, and then you have the others, those states that vehemently object to these principles. They intend to destroy these principles, and they've been working overtime to destroy them. What they mean by a union of states is not what we mean when we use that term. What they mean by a union of states is nothing more than our subservience to them. They take our money and slowly dole it back to us in the form of government programs, so-called entitlements, creating an unhealthy dependency. And then when we do pass a law, a common sense law based on the principles in the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution, they, whether it's their federal judges or their regulations, they overrule the laws that we lawfully enacted. This is an unhealthy, abusive relationship with which the Founding Fathers would have never agreed to. A real division already exists. To say that the 50 states are United States is not a statement of fact. We have no moral obligation to remain united to them. This is not a sacramental marriage. It's a political union. And maybe at one time it made sense politically for us to unite ourselves to them. But that day is long past. And for some 50 years, maybe even as long as 100, this has been an abusive relationship. They forced us to pay for their terminations, while forcing their sick morality upon us, and teaching our children to revolt against our values and our culture. We didn't ask for this. We didn't want this then, and we don't want it now. I say it's time we put our foot down and draw a line in the sand. The kids who got into these vans weren't just leaving home, they were leaving behind the culture of their parents, their values, their traditions, to create a new world, a better world. So what do you think? Did it work? Is this a better world? Or have we become more selfish, more self-absorbed